Hello? Hi, my friend. How are you? Listen, I got that kid I was talking to you about here. I'm going to put him on the phone and let you talk to him, okay?
Hello?
Is that Frank?
Yes.
Hi, Frank. This is Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
Glad to meet you.
Well, glad to meet you, too.
Even if it's over the phone. I heard you paint houses.
Yes, sir, I do. And I also do my own carpentry.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I understand you're a brother of mine.
Yes, sir. Local 107 since 1947.
Yeah.
Our friend speaks very highly of you.
Thank you.
He's not an
Easy man to please.
Well, I do my best.
Well, there's a situation going on.
Nowadays, young people, they don't know who Jimmy Hoffa was. They don't have a clue. I mean, maybe they know that he disappeared or something, but that's about it. But back then, there wasn't nobody in this country who didn't know who Jimmy Hoffa was.
God bless, Jimmy.
YouTube. Just a quick intro to this video. I was humming and hawing whether to tell this story or not. I talked it out with the wife, and I said, "How do you think people will take this story? Do you think it's going to go one or two? People are either going to really hate it and cringe, or people are going to really enjoy it?" And I'm hoping people see the good side of this. Now, some context: I'm a painter, house painter, and carpenter, dual trade. I spent a lot of years painting houses. Now, usually these houses you might spend $3,000, $4,000, maybe $5,000 getting your house painted. This was back then. It's probably a little bit higher now, but basically you get a quote to paint your house. You get 3 quotes. They're probably going to be within a few $100s of another. So you're not really you're not going to get. It's very difficult to actually rip people off houses, which is what my specialty was. My whole family's house painters. So I'll get multiple quotes. You're not going to get ripped off. You're going to know what the price is. You just pay what the price is. That simple. So this story I'm about to tell you is the exact opposite of that. This is where the stars for me aligned perfectly. It was the right date, the time, everything. I had a sales background, so I actually worked for a large electrical goods retailer. I won't say the name, but I had an extensive lot of sales training for me to be able to do this. So as I said, a lot of stars had to align for this to happen. This guy, and also what I'd like you to understand about this guy is he ended up going to jail for running a boiler room scam, which is an investment scam on people, like stealing people's money. So I want you to understand this guy actually ended up in jail. I think he's still in jail over this boiler room scam. And at the time, he was in the top 200 rich list in Australia. So this guy that I'm not going to say his name, but it's more just to tell the story. Now, the story is 10 grand in 10 paces, or I'm going to call it something like that. So I've done a job for this guy. This guy is clearly high net worth. We're talking extreme high net worth. And I'm not someone that really discriminates, but I saw an opportunity to potentially make a lot of money, and I jumped on it with both feet. So what happened with this job, I've done a smaller job for this guy, did a really good job. It was just a normal market sort of price for this job. Painting these little square cutouts for this guy, a metallic paint had an effect on them. It was a tedious task. It took me 2 or 3 days just to do it, but I did it to perfection for this guy. And this guy, the family got to know me. They got to trust me, whatever. And then this guy, the house that I was originally working on was a big monster of a house as it was. So it was impressive enough, just this big house I was in. Now, it was many months later, I get a call from the same guy for a new house at a new address. I won't show you the house, I won't show you where it was, I'll just tell you the amounts. Now, the way I describe this house to people is like Steven Spielberg's mansion. Okay, so I got called out to quote the inside only. This number I'm going to give you is for the inside only repaint of this house. So I walked into the place, a big staircase opened up. There's like chandelier type ceilings. I've never seen anything like this in my entire working life. He had a gym on the top level, which was the equivalent of something you would see at Fitness First. It was a professional gym inside this guy's house, and it was a 3-story house on waterfront, like a 4 or 5 car garage. I can't remember the exact specifics. Anyway, the job was so big, and the time constraints on the job were, I think we were 3 weeks out from Christmas, and he wanted it done for his either Christmas party or New Year's party. I can't quite remember which one it was. This is a long time back now. And so basically the guy knew me. I had an insider recommendation. I knew this guy was in the top 200 rich list in Australia. And bear in mind, this guy did go down for running a boiler room scam, and he ended up in jail over that boiler room scam. So just bear that in mind. This is not a regular occurrence. If I've painted your house in the past, you know I've charged you fair price. You wouldn't use me otherwise. I wouldn't have had work. But this is sort of why you go into the business, for these once in a lifetime opportunities. Now, people say to me, you can't make money painting houses. Well, I'm about to show you can. Not only can you make money, you can make very good money. But so what I'm going to do, so I've walked into this house. I get this call from this guy, and let's call him Kev. I'm going to use a fake name just so I don't have to slander him. I mean, it's not slander, it's happened. But let's say Kev called me up and he said, come and quote my house. I want this same wall that you did in my other house, but it's a really, really big, like 3 stories tall metallic feature wall. Now, it is, you can't see it on my other channel. I come out and I look at the wall, and I looked at it, and I didn't actually know if I could do there's a certain way it had to be done, so it dried and you couldn't see where we stopped and started. So very, very large area, 3 stories tall. We had full scaffold in there, and that was what he was wanting, this red feature wall. And he wanted the whole house painted, but it was mainly about this red feature wall. Could I do the red feature wall? And it's, as I think it's Steve Jobs, or I don't know which one. It might be Elon. No, it's Richard Branson says, if you don't know how to do something, say yes anyway, and then figure out how to do it. And I'd already done it. I just hadn't done it to the size of this wall. Like this one room was $5,500 just to paint one room. Okay, so that was the initial quote for the room that I was. It was a normal big room with a red metallic feature wall with an effect on this feature wall. It was $5,500 just for that one room. And then I had the opportunity, and I was saying to myself, and I even said to him, I said, I'm not even sure I can do that. The size of that wall, the speed I'm going to have to move down that wall to see that dries. Again, you'd have to be a painter to know what I'm talking about. You're then worried about seeing the drying as you're painting sections, because it's so large. So we were literally, there was 2 people doing it, and one of us was rolling the thing on, the other was putting the effect on, and we were literally running down the scaffold doing this one feature wall. Bottom line, we did it. It was no problem. It come up absolutely pristine. But what happened was we quoted, and this happened at the same time, we quoted the entire internal repaint for this house. Now this house had doors in it that I, looking at the doors, did not think I was going to be able to replicate the finish on these doors. So I looked at these doors and I think, I'm going to paint those doors and they're going to end up looking worse than they do now. And I managed to do it. It was like really, really high level work. But what was interesting about this job was the way I quoted it. So I had the initial okay for the $5,500. Now we worked it out. Now I actually gone to the job. I'd looked at it. I'd rang my old man. I said, look, I need a hand on this. I've never been in a house this size. I need like a second opinion here on the quote. So I'm quoting it. I'm working it out. How it works is you give people your quote and you show them the quote, and they either agree or disagree, or maybe you drop your price, or maybe you add some things on or whatever. I just wanted a second opinion. Now, my dad's been in the trade for ever, 50 years. My whole family's in the trade. Now he came out and we both went around the house. We quoted it individually, and we come up with a price. This is internal only of this house of where he come up at like 24 and a half, and I come up at 25 and a half or something like that. We both went out, we quoted it individually, and we were within $1,000 of each other's price. And I mean, the story is 10 grand in 10 paces. I'm going to use round numbers. We were approximately 10 paces away from the customer when this happened. So again, before I tell you this, remember this guy, he went to jail for running a boiler room scam and ripping off investors, okay? I'm going to call him Kev. Hi, Kev. Yeah. I had issues with payment. There were other issues. Bear in mind, this guy's in the top 200 rich list in Australia at the time. If you're going to make money off anyone, it's better to make money off this guy. Okay, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. All the stars had to align. Everything had to work. I had a good word of mouth already. So me and my dad, we're talking to each other. We come up with a price. I might have been 25 and a half. He might have been 24. Basically, 25,000 was the price we come up with. Now, we're speaking quietly to each other. He's just behind us with his little entourage. So he's a young guy. He's like in his 30s. Actually, I think he was late 20s. And he had an entourage of like girls and all in mini skirts. And he was trying to impress these girls and his friends that he was getting this, this big, massive house painted, and he could afford to paint it. He was showing off, and I could see that he was showing off. And basically, I talked to the old man. I said, what's your number? And I think his was 24 and a half. Mine was 25. I said, so 25. I said, yeah, we're going to do all right. 25, we're going to do all right. And I turned around and I looked at this guy, and this guy was like, he was big noting himself in front of his friends, and I literally took 10 steps, and I'm going to say 10 grand in 10 steps. And I said, are you ready for this? He said, yeah, sure, yeah, put it on me. Yeah. And I said, well, and I looked him straight in the eye and I said, there's not going to be much change out of 35, Kev, for this one. And I didn't flinch. And I just stayed silent, and I waited. And he balked a little bit. And then all the people, I knew all the people behind him he was trying to impress them. Now I gauged this over 10 steps. I went from $25,000 to $35,000 on the same job. Same job. I was making good money at 25. Okay. Now I had time constraints. I had to do it by, I believe it was Christmas. Okay. So I only had a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks or something to do it. So there was a lot of things that lined up for me to be able to do this. But at the end of the day, I knew this guy was going to say yes, because he was showing off in front of a few girls. He could afford it. He had the money. Again, he went to jail for a boiler room scam. So I basically turned around. I took 10 steps. There's not going to be much change out of 35 for this one, Kev. I said to him, and I just did not flinch. I just looked him in the eye and just waited. Just waited. This first one to speak loses. And he spoke, and he agreed to it. And what's even funnier is, and then I upsold him another feature wall for $2,500. So I ended up being a $37,500 job, which was a cash job. Now, and I still remember, I'll never forget, I actually counted these 50s on his second level. You had to go up the stairs, and there was a balcony on the second level. And I remember I had other family there with me. This is not a story that many painters are going to have. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, okay? And the fact the guy went to jail for running a boiler room scam, I was a house painter, quoting a job. He could have agreed, disagreed, whatever. It was up to him. I was not holding him at ransom. I just knew the psychological dynamics going on at the time. And as I said, I had a sales background. I was able to sell myself. He knew I did high-end good work. And the fact that it was a cash job. This guy paid me in cash. Now I put it down, so ATO people, don't worry, it's in my income and it's too far back anyway. But I did put it down. and I counted this money out on his second level balcony, and it was you'd had to do it. It was almost like doing a drug deal. It was stacks and stacks and stacks of 50s and hundreds, and there was a couple of us counting it all out, making sure it was all there, and there was some other things happened as well. He withheld a little bit of payment at the end, and there's a little. I won't go into how I ended up getting that few $1,000s out of him at the end, but things had to get a little bit nasty there at the end. But basically, I gave him a price. He agreed to it. I absolutely cleaned up on that job. We did it in about 2.5 weeks. We had cleaners in there. We had multiple painters in there. Anyway, I think it's a funny story. Just what you can do in business is kind of why you go into business, is because the ability for you to make ridiculous money in a short space of time. And I'm telling this story because I believe it's a win for the little guy. And I was a little guy at that stage. I was just a tradesman. I was just fortunate enough to just do this one smaller job. It was a couple of $1,000 job, maybe 6 months earlier for this guy. This guy knew me already, and I knew who he was, okay? And it was, later I found out it was only very recently he got done for the boiler room scam, and he actually served time for that. So anyway, I just thought I'd tell you that the story is 10 grand in 10 paces, and do a course in sales. I can't stress that enough. It's sometimes it's like a game of poker face. Anyway, I'm going to put this story out there. I honestly don't know how it's going to get received. As I said, the job was a $25,000 job. We're going to make good money at $25,000 internal only inside. And then I loaded it 10 grand in 10 paces. So I literally turned around, I walked up to him, and my dad didn't even know I was going to do this. He's behind me, and he heard me say it. And he had to keep a straight face as well. So I actually don't know how he managed to keep a straight face, which I'll probably ask him now, because that's an interesting one in itself. How he knew exactly what I did, but he managed to keep a straight face as well while I did it. So anyway, I'm hoping you see the good side of that. It's a tradesman that, once in a lifetime. I mean, you get any of my family to paint your house, it's a few $1,000s, whatever. You're going to get a price it's probably within a few $100s of every other painter in the area. No one's the chances of you being ripped off by a house painter are like, it's not going to happen. And if it happens, it's maybe a couple of $100s is the best most people are going to be able to do. There's going to be guys out there that are going to be able to maybe do a bit better than that, but really you're talking a couple of $100 either way. What I'm talking about is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And as I said, all the stars had to align. I had time constraints. I knew the guy. I had a referral. He knew I did good high-end work. And I agreed to do something, a job, one particular part of this house that I actually didn't even know I could do it. So I was taking straight away. I was $5 grand expenses straight away. First day on the job, I had $5 grand go out. So that's a big risk. If I spend $5 grand on a job and the guy doesn't pay me, I lose $5 grand. So that's obviously business people understand that. But anyway, I thought I'd put this story out there. I'm hoping you can see the positive side of this. This guy wasn't some small-time player. This guy was in the top 200 rich list in Australia, okay? So I had an opportunity. I took it. As I said, 10 grand in 10 paces. I've told this story a few times, and I think people don't believe me, but there's people there that my dad in particular, he was there. Obviously cousins, other relatives, they know this happened. So it went from 25 to 35, and then I ended up upselling him another metallic feature wall. It was a curved wall for $2,500 on top of the $35,000 job. So I'm going to call it 10 grand in 10 paces, but it's probably more like 12 grand in 10 paces. Anyway, I'm hoping you can see the positive in that. And again, that's the only time that's ever happened in my life. You could see where you could see that happen is maybe on maybe a big commercial job, or say government work or something like that. You can get away with that kind of stuff there, because they're not really checking the numbers that sort of enough. Residential stuff, you can't go around doing that to people. You have no business. That's just how it is. Okay, I had this one opportunity, and everything had to line up perfectly, and I had to do it without flinching. I had this guy was big noting himself. He was trying to impress his friends, and I pretty much knew this guy was going to say yes. It's just I didn't know how far I was going to be able to push it. And even my other cousin said to me, he said, I would have loaded the job, but I wouldn't have loaded it 10 grand, was what he said to me. It was kind of funny, because this cousin I'm talking about, you would consider him in the family probably the best salesman in the family. And for him to say that, I was quite impressed with that, because he definitely would have loaded it a little bit, but he said I wouldn't have loaded it 10 grand. And we were laughing about that. But so anyone tells you can't make money painting houses, they're full of shit. Okay, all the best. I hope you can enjoy this story. It's honest to God that's what happened. So I'm hoping you can see the positive. I was a small time house painter. Small guy having a big win, a big financial win. Most of the time, it's just bread and butter. Just lucky to get paid most of the time. I was fortunate enough to have this happen to me. Right place, right time, right circumstances. Just a lot of it was luck. A lot of these things are luck. You got to put some of it down to luck as well. Don't discount luck, is what I will say. But how much is luck? I mean, I had the sales training, I had the experience, I had the quality of work. It all had to line up. But there is an element of luck. Don't discount luck. Anyway, I'm going to put this story out there. I'm going to see how it's received. I'm not sure whether this could literally kill the channel, this story, because it's so you're talking a lot of money for literally nothing. It was a big internal repaint. It was a lot of work, but the $10,000 increase in price is what I'm not sure how people are going to take that. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to put a clip in front of this. You probably already watched it already, but